I'm ToryDelury, and you're watching my van build. Coming up in today's episode, I'm building out the slide-out bench, closet walls, water tanks, DIY wooden bike rack, slide-out bench for my fridge, under-the-bed storage with a cat bed, and more. So stay tuned and be sure to subscribe if you want to follow along with the rest of the van build. So in my last van build video, I built my fixed bed in the back of the van, and I also recently built the partition door, which will be my next van build video. But kind of in between those things, I started working on some smaller projects, and I found that at this stage of the van build, it's way easier for me to just do a little bit of a project and then move on and do a little bit of another project and kind of just build. And so I've been working on a lot of smaller projects lately, and I thought I would throw them all together in this video and then at the end come back and show you what it looks like now. But also I really want to talk about one of the most important van build things that I learned actually on my trip to Boston last week while living in this van for a short period. So I'm very excited to share my progress and show you what I've been up to, and I hope you like it. The first project I worked on was the 39-gallon 𝗙𝗃𝘃𝗆 water tank, which I bought months ago, and I found a little baby stink bug in the box. So it was nice that it came with a free breakfast at least, since it cost $299 painful dollars. The shipping did take a few weeks, and annoyingly, the bracket didn't match up perfectly, so I had to drill out the holes to make them larger so it would fit into the tank. Also, I thought it would go right up against the wheel well and not much farther, but I was wrong. It actually takes up a good amount of space, I would say. Luckily, it does come with all of the brackets needed to secure it into the wall, and I did go back and actually add a large support beam behind the wooden wall for this specifically to be screwed into, because I really don't want this to be going anywhere, which seems to, be fairly important because I'm living in a vehicle. And I can only guess how heavy 39 gallons of water would be. I simply pre-drilled some holes and then used a socket wrench to secure the bolts. Also, a big thing to think about as well was even weight distribution, because this is a huge water tank and it can get pretty heavy, so my fridge, my electrical system, and my closet are all on the other side to help keep the van from favoring one side on weight. But of course, that's a weird one because some days the fridge is full, some days it's empty, some days the water will be full, some days it will be empty, so just some more things to think about. The kitchen, the sink, and the whole water system are actually still far down on the build list, so all I did for today was secure in the tank. But eventually, in a future video, I'll be adding this into my plumbing system when I build the kitchen unit. My last van build only had 6 gallons of water, so this is a major upgrade, but I'm hoping to add on an outdoor shower in the back, so 6 gallons was just not going to cut it. Next, I built a DIY wooden bike rack for my e-bike. This was fairly simple as well. I made a small rack out of 3/4 inch Baltic birch with 1x3s on the side screwed in with Craig screws. I added some of my leftover daisy print liner I used inside my refrigerator to give it a coarse and sturdy bottom that just wasn't going to be that boring black flooring. And this has worked really well so far, and I'm glad that it gives it a bit of personality as well. Overall, this is pretty sturdy and holds up well to the bike. I do wish I would have added L brackets, but I think I might go back and do that in the future. I then screwed some 1/2 inch Baltic birch into the floor of the van and screwed some heavyweight drawer slides into them. I kept a piece of 1/2 inch wood under the drawer to keep it off the ground when I installed it, and I want to say I was super intimidated by the idea of drawer slides my whole first van build, and now I feel so silly for that. I promise they are so simple and you should not be afraid to try it. When I finally got the drawer slides installed, I tested out putting the bike on the slide, and I have to be honest, my thought was, how is this much different than just sliding the bike into the van in the corner? And I think if I could go back, I would just skip the bike rack. I see them in so many van builds, But now having had one and using it and testing it, I think just having this corner be designated for my bike would have been fine and pretty much the same. I still need to lift the heavy bike and move it around a bunch into a good position, so I'm not really seeing that many benefits, but maybe that's just me. Next, I added some gold stair nosing to the edges of the floor in the back to give it a more finished look. I picked a pretty long length so it would cover the whole edge. I think I may go back and add screws to these as well because the peel-off tape doesn't seem to be holding up as enough, but I would say overall this project actually turned out pretty well, and I'll be doing it on the sliding door eventually too. One of my biggest regrets in my last van build was the garage storage area just felt so wasted because I had no shelf or organizational system, and there was just a lot of upper unused space. So this time I knew I wanted to add shelves to fill that space and make it usable. The back portion will be for extra coats or blankets or my roller skates. I'm not completely sure yet, but something like that. The thing about a van build is if you have storage, you'll always find something to put in it. This build portion ended up kind of messy, but that's okay. It's under the bed, no one's ever going to see it. It's partly messy because I was stubborn about only using scrap pieces of wood, and so I have this weird 2-inch piece in the corner of the front for no good reason. It's just the price of wood these days is ridiculous, so I figured if I could use scrap wood, I would. And I was hoping in the end I would just cover it up and make it work, which I did, but you know, it still bothers me and I still know it's there. The front portion of this shelving though is going to be a huge statement piece in the van and very important because it is my cat Betty's bed and hideout. She loves hiding in little boxes and her little tent, so I wanted to give her her own space in the van where she could feel safe and she could hide away in a little corner, but I also wanted to make it as sassy as she is. And of course that means this could not be basic, so I made the floor from slices of cardboard, which she loves to play with and scratch at, and then the top of the box I draped with fabric to block off the uneven bed slats from the view, as well as blocking off the insulation that was visible in the corner. Then I painted some trimming pieces to nail into the back wall to give it a more luxurious feel. The final question I have for this space is if I should add some gold photo frames with pictures of Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian, or just put up another matching trim piece, or maybe just frame this Magikarp Pokemon card since cats love fish. My next project was covering up these ugly back corner walls. I never did this in my last van build, and I always thought it looked just not that aesthetically pleasing in the back, so I'm glad I'm doing that this time. It was super simple. I just made a cardboard template, then cut out some thin wood to shove snug into the spot and screw into the wall. I screwed a scrap piece of 1x3 into the van and then screwed the wall into that to make it a little bit easier. But overall, it was super simple, and one side did need me to install a USB charger through it, but easy peasy lemon squeezy. I'm at a point in this van build where just one movie scene keeps replaying in my head.
We're in the end game now.
Because it's so true. I'm finally at the point where, at last, I see the light. Even from the beginning of this video to the end of this video, the van looks totally different. While the van build started out being a lot of big projects, I'm now in a phase where it seems to be a lot of smaller projects and working on finishing things up aesthetically, which is very exciting, but also a lot of pressure. I feel like I had these grand expectations for this build to be exceptional and beautiful, but then I finish a project and it has ripped wood or a wonky edge, or it's not perfectly straight, or looks like an amateur built it, which is probably because an amateur did build it, so I mean, I guess that's fair. But sometimes I look around and I hate it. I don't like how it's ending up, but I'm just trying to keep pushing because I remember back when I was a painter for a living, I would hate every art piece I made once it hit the halfway point up until it was pretty much almost done. I just am not great at seeing my own vision most of the time, so I'm trying to stay positive and not want to throw the whole van in the trash or, you know, drive it off a cliff. I'm trying to learn to trust the process and remember everything is fixable or changeable or repaintable, and that likely everything is totally fine and I just need to keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep building. Next was one of the more difficult projects, which is my bench and slide-out drawer for my fridge. Once the box was made and I had test fit the fridge, I attempted to staple some Reflectix to the bottom, and this was a last-minute decision, but I have a radiant heated floor, so my floor can get pretty hot, and I was hoping this would help keep the fridge more cool, since it's only a ½ inch from the floor. But because this was a last-minute addition, I didn't calculate the thickness of this in my measurement, and it ended up dragging on the floor, so I ended up having to remove the entire drawer again, pull it off, get a staple remover, and it just didn't end up working out. Because being able to open the fridge without dragging it on the floor was much more important, but I just wish I would have thought of the Reflectix back during the measurement phase. Next, I was putting the slides together and starting to assemble the framing for the bench. There was definitely a better and more professional way to do this entire process, but I just kind of made it up as I went, and that's the cool thing about woodworking. It's all just about making things up and making things come together however you want. It's magical how much you can do with some screws and some wood. It's easily the least intimidating part of the van build. It's like crafting but on a larger scale. But there are two things I would change if I could go back, and first is that the box would have been taller around the fridge. I made the box smaller because that's what I typically see in other van builds, and of course I want to save wood if I can save wood. But for me, it just hasn't been sturdy enough, so I wish I had taken the walls of the box all the way up to the lid area. I'm actually going to go back after this and install some L brackets as well, because the Craig screws just pulled right apart since I'm pulling in a bad direction for them every time I open the fridge. So there was definitely a lot of learning in this project for sure, and my last van build had a smaller fridge, so I had a lid on the bench that opened from the top to access it, but this one was so big and took up so much space that I'm actually losing a lot of closet space. So when designing the van, I actually decided to put the closet wall over part of the bench so that I could not lose more space, which is why I couldn't have an opening lid this time. I just really wanted a freezer this time. It was a big reason I wanted to upgrade my last van, was that I regretted not having a freezer almost every day. Also, this fridge may look huge, but it actually filled up really fast on my Boston trip, so now I'm not sure how many days I could boondock with this, but I definitely thought it would hold a bit more. Also, you may notice I lined the bottom of the box with contact paper. That way, when something over the years inevitably spills, it will be a lot easier to clean up. So yesterday, when removing this refrigerator out of the refrigerator slide-out box, I was lifting it up and the lid dropped down onto my face. And this is a very, very heavy lid. Every video where I'm wearing these glasses, it's because I have a black eye and I'm trying to cover it. This one's more of like a red mark and like just bruising, but yeah, so we're now 2 black eyes into the van build, and I digress. Right now we have to move this refrigerator out there, And I'm gonna be honest, I'm having a little bit of PTSD and fear, so... Oh, it's slipping, it's slipping. Don't dent my floor.
That is mahogany.
Alright, I've redone this bench about 10 times now, and I'm really hoping 10 is the magic number, that it will finally open and close easily. I know it's going to be more difficult once the weight of the fridge is in it, because it does take a lot of arm strength to open and close this, but I'm hoping it's no longer because it scrapes against the ground. So, here we go. I'm scared. Ah, oh, yes, beautiful. Incredible. It's still even hard to get it, like, this still takes arm strength to do that. So I guess it's just that it's gonna be heavy duty, because it's a heavy fridge. I still need to get a lock for the front so it doesn't slide open when I drive, and unfortunately some of the edge banding chipped off on my Boston trip, but overall I'm really happy with it. I also made a piece of wood to go over the top of the bench and added a cushion seat. I'm hoping to keep that piece of wood removable and have it double as a table that I can remove and then sit down on some slats, but I can't do that until I add the divider, so you'll just have to wait for that project. Next, I'm making a template for the closet wall and cutting it out of 1/2" Baltic birch. Originally, I made it long enough for it to go from the wall to the floor, but in the end, as I was saying in the last portion about my fridge, because it was so long, I actually ended up cutting it in half and installing the top half on top of the bench and the bottom half as the wall for the bench. I really hope I didn't waste this piece of wood. I can handle a little long. So I have this weird thing I do when I make templates because I make them so poorly and I always cut off too much and I just have to fix it. So I started actually cutting it a bit too small on purpose and just kind of making it wonky. And then I tape along the edge of the wall to make it to the right size. It just makes it 10 times easier and faster and works just as well for me, even though I'm sure this looks a little crazy and unprofessional. So I'm kind of upset about, I'm very upset about this gap here. I don't love it. It feels like, but I didn't want to pay money to get a whole different piece of wood just to have another piece that would fit like 1 inch taller. It didn't feel like it was worth the price of wood these days. And there's also like a little gap back here. So I'm hoping once all the clothes are in the closet and the borders around the edges that you'll never see it and you'll never know. And I think that's going to be absolutely true. Still does not feel great. You shall not pass. I just have to screw in these little bases and then this just sits on it. It's supposed to have a screw that goes into it to attach it, but it only came with one of them, so I'm gonna pretend like I didn't notice because I need this clothing rack like tomorrow. I should go get a hanger just to make sure. Okay, don't be me. If you're going to go through all of that work to find the perfect position, maybe have a pen to mark it with, or the drill to start drilling it with, or anything, because nothing's within arm reach, so gonna have to do it again. And now it's time for one of my favorite details, this peel and stick wallpaper from Amazon. I love this design so much, and I'm trying to use it on the inside of all my drawers and cabinets and boxes just to add some more color and personality. Of course, you'll probably never see this since my closet is always completely full, but it's just kind of fun to have it there. But this is where I ended this project for today. Obviously, the closet still has a long way to go, but at least for now, it can do its main purpose. So I went on a very small and short trip to Boston last week and was living in the van, and it really just changed a lot about the things I'm going to be doing as I build going forward, as well as taught me things I need to change and improve and rebuild. For example, the fridge, because I was pulling on it for like a week straight, opening and closing it, the box didn't have enough support on its own, so I bought tiny little L brackets. I think this is going to make a huge difference because I'm pulling on that front board. Safe. I'm pulling on that front board, and it's just really pulling apart the box. So I got L brackets. I think that's going to just be a better secure hold than the Craig screws that I put in it when I was building it. So I'm gonna fix that. Also, the light in the back always falls out when I drive, and so does the USB charging thing in the back. I just need to get a better secure glue. It's not meant to be on the road. Also, I forgot how much when you live in a van, so you come through the front, right, and you're wearing your shoes, you take off your shoes, but you've probably already tracked some dirt onto the floor, then you're walking around barefoot on your floor, and then you go and you get into bed. Okay, now your feet have picked up all of the dirt from your shoes, and you've now tracked it into your bed. And you can't like 𝗙𝗵𝘃𝘆𝗃𝗄𝗏 it, you know what I mean? No Wingardium Leviosa, make it go away. So I need to get a vacuum, and the reason that's important now is because I want to get a small like bed vacuum, but then I need to figure out where I'm going to store it and start planning storage for it now because they're not that small. But then plus I'm going to have a cat in here and she sheds like crazy. So I definitely want to get that, but I forgot how much that happens when you're living in a van. So I'm glad that I took that time and I took that small trip. Also, I made a comment before about how I didn't think my vehicle's batteries that I had added was enough. And once I added solar, and I was living in the van and I was really testing it out, it was more than enough. I never got below 90 for over a week and a half. Also, at one point, I put up the skylight like bug screen, and because of the curve in the wall, it doesn't fit. I bought it way back in the beginning of the build, so I'm gonna have to either change it up or figure out how to make it fit. So it's nice to have just been living on the road and really testing all of this stuff out, because it did change a lot for me. Also, I really missed having a slide-out table. I had nowhere to eat, so I can't wait to have that put in. There's just a lot of things that I thought about and really worked through because I was sleeping in it and living in it. So if you're going to be building a van build, I really recommend just living in it, even if it's for 2-3 days. You can learn a lot about your build and about what you specifically want and need in your build and what's working and not working. Like a lot of things, we're not ready to be down bumpy roads and driving. Things fell. I learned. I had gotten locks for the fridge and they do not work. Like they work when you're on smoother roads. You get on the highway and take a sharp turn, it's done. So I'm gonna have to get new locks for the fridge. The edge banding on the fridge kept breaking off. I wonder if that's because I was using this as a step to get into bed. I don't know. So there were just a lot of things that I mentally noted and I think was very helpful in the end. But I think that's it for today, and I am actually going to be building the slide-out table today, so hopefully I can get that done and we can keep getting this van build rolling. My dream is to have it done by the end of May, but it's going to rain the entire next week. So you know, as Aerosmith said, dream on, right? I hope this video was helpful, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.